Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Idahoan Show. My wife really likes to go to yard sales, and so we've been to quite a few yard sales over the past few years, and I have noticed that there are a number of relatively simple things that can make a big difference in how successful a given yard sale is. And so I wanted to take a minute to give you kind of my top 5 or so things that you can do to make your yard sale as successful as possible. Number 1, let people know about it. If nobody knows about your yard sale, nobody will come. And there's a lot of different venues that you can use to get the word out. You can post it on social media, you can post it on free online classifieds. If you're real serious and willing to spend a little money, you can even run a classified ad in your local newspaper. And yes, there are a fair number of yard sale enthusiasts who actually still read the local newspaper for that kind of information. But whether or not you spend any money, get the word out so that people know there's a yard sale going on. Number 2, make sure that people can find it. In the olden days, this meant getting a big piece of neon poster board or some similar sign material and writing yard sale in big letters with an arrow pointing towards your place and posting it out on the highway. And then having similar signs posted at every intersection between your place and the highway. And then when they get to your place, you'd have another big piece of neon poster board or other appropriate signage that says yard sale here, so they know that they've found it. Today, where most people have GPS and phones that track where they are and so forth, having the entire route marked is probably not as important, at least if you've posted your address on social media and everywhere else that you've advertised the yard sale, because they can just put their address in and their computer should be able to plot the route that they'll need to follow to get there. However, you still definitely want to have a big sign on your front lawn saying yard sale here so that they know when they're there and they don't just keep following their GPS around in circles wondering if it's leading them on a wild goose chase. As sometimes it does, because GPS is useful but not infallible. Number 3, start on time. I don't know that there's one time a day that necessarily works better than any other for having a yard sale. I mean, I see a lot that are advertised to start at either 9 or 10 in the morning and run till mid-afternoon, but if you wanted some extra time to set up and so you decided to start at noon or at 5 o'clock in the evening after people are off work, that would probably work fine, as long as by whatever time you've set and advertised that you're starting, you've got everything that you want to sell out of the house and arranged the way you want it and clearly marked, and you're ready to give your customers your undivided attention. And the reason that this is so important is that your most motivated customers, the real hardcore yard salers who are serious bargain hunters and are serious about spending money on yard sales as opposed to just looking around, will typically try to get to the sale within about the first 10 minutes so that they can snag all the best bargains before anybody else does. Hardcore yard salers are very competitive that way. But that means that if the time that your sale nominally starts rolls around and you're still in the process of dragging stuff out of the house and arranging it for the sale, then you're going to miss out on your best opportunity to sell a lot of your stuff because, some of it's not even out for them to see yet and you're just not available to give your most motivated customers your undivided attention. Number 4. Make sure that everything is clearly priced. Again, this is just part of getting ready for the sale. So if you're going to start at 9, then by 9 o'clock, you should not only have everything out on display how you want it, but it should be clearly marked as to how much you're asking for it. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make all the time at the yard sales that my wife takes me to is that they don't have prices posted. Either they'll have a sign that says, make offer or ask for price, or maybe they won't have any signs at all and they just won't have prices listed. But the fact is that most prospective customers, if they have to ask to find out what the price of something is, they won't ask. They just won't buy anything. And so if you don't have prices clearly marked, then you're basically running off about 90% of your prospective customers for no good reason. Now, I realize that with a typical yard sale, you've got a lot of junk to move, and you don't have time to write out price tags for every single item that you're hoping to sell. But there's a lot of things you can do to make sure that everything is clearly priced without having to individually price every specific item. One possibility is that you can get these little colored dots, they sold as stickers, and then you just have a color key somewhere that says, okay, everything with a yellow sticker is $1, everything with a blue sticker is $2, everything with a green sticker is $5. Something like that can simplify the process a little bit. If you want to take it a step further, you can just have a bunch of different tables and say, okay, everything on this table, $1 each. Everything on this table, $2 each, so on and so forth. Another thing that works well with clothing is to have some shopping bags set out and say, okay, as much clothing as you can stuff in a shopping bag for $2. Or whatever, you price it by the bag rather than by the individual article of clothing. And that can encourage people to buy more because they'll try to stuff more in the bags. So by applying a few strategies like this, it's not all that much extra work to make sure that everything at your yard sale is clearly priced, and if it's clearly priced, it's much more likely to actually sell. And that brings me to my final point, which is price your stuff to sell. Let's face it, the purpose of a yard sale is to get rid of a bunch of junk and turn as much of it as possible into cash before you have to take the rest to the dump or donate it to a thrift store or something. Another big mistake that I see people make at yard sales is when it comes to pricing their stuff, they pick up a sweater and say, I paid $30 for this sweater and it's still in basically new condition, so I should be able to sell it for $20. No, you can't. A clothing store might be able to, because people who go to a clothing store are in need of clothing, and so they're going to find what meets their needs and then try to get the best deal within the set of clothing that meets their needs. So, if you've got a bunch of sweaters on the rack and they need a sweater and there's one that is lightly worn but it's 30% off and it's still in basically new condition, they might think that's a good deal. But by and large, people who come to yard sales don't need anything. They're just shopping around for deals that are too good to pass up. So nobody is going to pay $20 for a sweater at a yard sale. A good rule of thumb for pricing yard sale merchandise is 10% of retail value. So if you paid $30 for a sweater, you might be able to sell it for $3. If you've got a lawnmower that you bought for $500 and it's still in good working order, you might be able to sell it for $50. If you've got a custom AR-15 that you put together for $1,500, don't sell it at a yard sale, take it to a gun store or a gun show or something where you can get your money's worth out of it. And the same principle would apply to certain valuable antiques or coins or other things for which there's an active collector's market. If you're trying to liquidate assets, yard sales are not necessarily the best venue to do that. Rather, as I said, yard sales are mostly a venue for getting rid of household items that you don't need and other junk that you've got lying around, and when properly organized and executed can actually be an effective way of not only getting rid of it, but even turning it into moderate amounts of cash. But your yard sale's not going to be nearly as effective as it could be unless people know it's happening, they can find it, you're ready to start on time, you've got all your stuff clearly priced, and it's priced to sell. So those are my 5 tips for having a successful yard sale. Hope this helps, and until next time, thank you for watching The Idahoan Show.